sharing an umbrella a fantastic thing? It's just such a lovely thing. To share an umbrella with people is just wonderful. It's like you get that camaraderie, you get support, you get shelter, even love. It's just the most fantastic thing. So we had this idea that we'd like to cover a square with some umbrellas. So whenever this comes up with the next one, it's definitely not working just yet anyway. We had this idea that we'd hack a bit of the city ourselves. And Meeting House Square in Temple Bar was designed in 1993, and it was the most fantastic outdoor space. But on the other hand, it was shite, because when it rained, you couldn't actually use it in any kind of special way. So this is our project, just finished about 3 or 4 months ago. This is what it was like before, and I was at about maybe 5 or 6 gigs there, rained on every time, and it was miserable. But it's still a fantastic thing to be outside in an outdoor space, in a public space that is used for everybody. But it's miserable when it rains, and it rains a lot. For me, it rained every time I went to the square. It rained, and there are some people who actually really enjoy the fact that it rained, but I didn't. So I thought, what could you do to make this square still outdoors, but make it in such a way that you could enjoy it in all weathers? I thought, well, actually, if you look at something like, even the way children kind of hide underneath or make dens out of sheets and stuff around chairs. These are not my daughters, by the way. It's just such a wonderful thing. And then I was thinking, well, actually, if you look at if a speeded up film of flowers, imagine a kind of meadow of umbrellas that open like this. It's just a wonderful thing to get that kind of coverage, open and closing. Most of the time the square is open, but it covers when it's rained. Then if you look up, shouldn't it look like a kind of new version of a Gothic cathedral? This is Beauvais, and if you go to Paris by Ryanair, you have to go here, but it's worth going to. But you get this incredible kind of translucent, airy quality above you, which is really wonderful. But the trouble about umbrellas is, the water falls off umbrellas. So we thought, well, actually, what you should really do is have upside-down umbrellas. But the trouble about an upside-down umbrella is it looks like that when it's closed. It looks terrible. It looks like this. I think this is Gustavus or some kind of dancer. We wanted it to look like this, something which is incredibly elegant, something which is controlled, and something which is stunning. And that's what we wanted to look like 95% of the time when it's not being used. So how do we achieve that? We achieve that by looking really carefully about the arms of the umbrellas. So if you look at these bits down here, why not organize it in such a way that they come down and they cover over the fabric and control the fabric? The next problem is, if you've got a square, you can't use circular umbrellas. So if you have a square which is covered with 4 square umbrellas, then you have a really serious issue about a diagonal and a side arm not fitting properly, and when they come down to the bottom, they look really terrible. So we made a model. We made a model in a garage with elastic bands and pieces of string to make sure we figured out how to use it. And the way we did it is by mounting the hinge at different positions on the vertical mast as it's moving. The next thing is, for economy, how do you make sure you have 4 identical umbrellas which overlap? The only way you can do that is by having them tilted on a diagonal. And that's another, I suppose, breakthrough in the design. So that when the umbrellas are closed, they look like a bulrush. They look elegant and beautiful. Again, that's something which is going to be there 95% of the time, like this. And then when they open, they look like a lily. And it's the transition between those two things that is just immensely exciting. So this is the way you turn the sound down. And you get a moment of drama. You get a moment of drama that builds up to something which is wonderful, something that you can sit underneath, you can enjoy, you can be sheltered from the weather and so on. Okay. And also it's a bit like a billowing parachute or something. I mean, there's a moment of kind of almost climax as that thing opens and completely stretches out. And it's a wonderful feeling being underneath when it happens. Fitted inside it are speakers on each one of them. They open in order, so they're sequencing, and as they open, they can form an arpeggio, so they da 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 as they're opening. Excuse my singing. So also the material itself is translucent, so you get great sun coming through, and you get a kind of flicker of the structure which is above it. And then they can be used as a canvas. This is Valentine's night. There were 50 cavorting couples on those. This is before Valentine's night. 50 cavorting couples on those beanbags, and it was just such a fantastic occasion. This was the first night there was a cinema on it, and again you could use it projection on the underside of it. But for us, I suppose the ultimate irony is it was used for a Ballygowan water advert. And here we are in Ballygowan, and they're advertising the fact that water can go through the umbrellas and soak people. And it's great this is used. It's kind of beginning to enter the kind of popular culture in that sense, but it's kind of a terrible shame that it's used in such a way like a Ballygowan advert. Anyway, thank you very much indeed.